Get some breaking news right now, courtesy of our pal Irfan Gafar of Rinkwide. You should listen to Rinkwide after the game, folks. But sounds like Eric Brandstrom is going to be a healthy scratch tonight for the Canucks. Mark Friedman will draw into the lineup, and he will play with Vinny Desharnais. Dave, first question. How's Mark Friedman looked this year down in Abbotsford?
Well, he was injured for quite an extended time there, but to be honest, like when he goes down to the AHL, it's hilarious because it just goes to show the difference between the American League and the NHL. Because when Mark Friedman goes down to the American League, he's an all-star. And we saw Brandstrom go down for 2 games of what he was doing down there. Mark Friedman, while it wasn't Eric Brandstrom-esque, it's pretty impressive. I mean, he was playing forward at one point, so yeah.
He's going to play with Vinny Desharnais tonight. Any surprise? Like, obviously, you watch the Vancouver Canucks too. Any surprise that Brandstrom's not in tonight?
Yeah, that's a huge surprise to me. I mean, Vancouver needs puck movers, and he's one of the few that can on the back end. So I'm definitely a little shocked to hear that, especially if it's a healthy scratch. That's a bit of a head scratcher, but
I will say this: we were talking about Tyler Myers, Carson Soucy, those two specifically, and even Noah Jules to some extent, really elevating their game since Filip Hronek's gone down.
Yeah.
I don't know if Eric Brandstrom's elevated his game. I think Eric Brandstrom's baseline level was good, but again, you also take into consideration the matchup data. He's not going, or the quality of competition is what we should say. He's not going to kill penalties for you. Like, I kind of understand it to some extent. Like, this, to me, this isn't like a 3 weeks ago, if Eric Brandstrom was scratched, I'd be like, what's going on? But I think right now, I kind of get it. Like, I kind of get it. I'm not saying I agree with it. I probably wouldn't have done it. We all know how much I like franchise, but I kind of understand where the coaching staff might be coming from with this one. Those guys have certainly elevated their games around him. So we will see what happens. Friedman in the lineup tonight. Little breaking news start this hit with Dave Hall. But Dave, let's go to the farm. I was reading Blackfish today. I actually edited Blackfish right before the show went to air. And one guy, you are saying we need to give a lot more love to Ty Mueller.
Yeah.
Tell me about him.
Yeah. So, as someone who follows prospects, you always got those guys that, like, I hate to say vindication, but those are the kind of guys that are going to give a guy like me vindication, because I've been kind of harping on his name for quite a bit of time. And, I go, hey, Ty Mueller, keep an eye out for Ty Mueller. And you get the, okay, Dave, I'm sure. But at this point, it's gotten like he's a fixture in the top 6, and he's playing in all situations, and now he's even getting some offensive numbers. So while he might not ever be that top 6 NHL guy, I think this kid might have a legitimate shot at cracking, or at least seeing, some bottom 6 minutes at some point. He's rocking around a 54% face-off as a top 6 second line center the entire year. He's playing penalty kill, power play, top 6, and he's now formed a pretty strong line with Lekkerimäki and Archie Baines over the weekend. So, I mean, just a responsible two-way center that, you're not going to get huge production from, but can kind of do a little bit of everything. And I've said it a few times on the show, but it's clear that the organization agrees with that sentiment, because they've Talkett's even mentioned his name out of camp, and now Malhotra has been playing the heck out of him all, like, since day one. So, like I said, who knows? I don't think to expect anything, super special, but it's kind of like a Max Sasson there. I think there's a chance that he kind of goes in there as a bottom 6 option.
Tell me about this line. Lekkerimaki, you just told me about it. Mueller, Baines, tell me about this line.
Well, they combined for 14 points in 2 games, so that's a pretty good start. But yeah, it's just been electric. Like, the one thing that you love about it is you got Lekkerimäki, who's obviously the trigger guy. He's the guy that's going to score. He's got a nose for the net. He just not even a nose for the net. He's got a nose for offense. So whether he's setting them up or trying to score goals, he's got that offensive ability. Archie Baines is an AHL MVP. So he's all over the ice. He's quick at the AHL level, and he's doing all the little things. And then Ty Mueller is just your responsible guy that can make a little bit of offense happen as well. So I think overall they seem to have found a bit of hot magic there. And it's only been 2 games, but so far you got to love what you see.
Yeah, absolutely. People are asking about Lekkerimäki specifically. Look, the 6-point surge, we saw that over the 2 games. He made up 6 of those points. This one from Warchild89 in the chat. What's a realistic expectation for Lekkerimäki / Willander 2 years from now?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I don't know. With Lekkerimäki, I think it's safe to say at this point that he has definitely top 6 potential. Yes, he's got to work on his, his overall strength. He's got to get a bit of a quicker first couple steps there. He's not. I wouldn't call him explosive. So there's definitely things that he needs to work on. But let's be real, he's already scored his first NHL goal. Like, he has a nose for the net. I think top 6 at this point is more than reasonable, and I don't think it's going to take him that long to get there as well. I still would love to see him in the AHL a lot more. Like, take his 4 goals that he scored this weekend specifically. Like, you love to see the versatility. Like, yes, he's got that perimeter, that awesome shot, but all 4 goals this week that we saw are completely different from that. We saw a beautiful breakaway. We saw a nice goal off the rush, but two of his goals were on the doorstep. One of them where he actually gained position on his defenseman and actually pushed through the middle and was in front of the net and got his own rebound. So, you know, there are things that he's working on that are coming together at the AHL level. And so definitely top 6 for him. And with Willander, I just put out a piece on Canucks Army earlier this week, kind of talking about his game. I've really liked what he's done this year. Obviously, the shutdown ability has just always been a thing. That's going to be his calling card. He's a shutdown two-way defenseman, but definitely treading towards the shutdown ability. But his ability to, like, honestly just carry the puck has improved immensely this year. That was one thing last year that was kind of lacking, is just he kind of had tunnel vision a bit, and he made some very questionable plays, whether it was on the breakout or just with possession. So this year I've really liked what he's done with his offensive game. And so I don't see why at this point a top 4 defenseman is out of the question. I don't know if it's next year. I think by mid-time next year, I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the top 4 on that right side. And for me, I would love, like everyone's talking about the Quinn Hughes, Tom Willander top line. I actually like Willander being on that second pair, because having a skater like Quinn Hughes on the top line and then a skater like Tom Willander on the second pair is just, you know, it's a beautiful thing. So I think top 4 is definitely in reach with Tom Willander.
Quickly on Lekkerimaki, I want to go back a bit to what you just said.
Okay.
You haven't taken the appropriate victory lap, because when he was called up, we know it was just for a practice and get an NHL paycheck for a day. We know it ended up being that, but we were talking to you, and you were one of the few people, because we were like, oh, it's exciting, Lekkerimäki's coming back up. You were one of the few people that pointed out, you're like, he hasn't been good since he went down to Abbotsford after that NHL demotion, when they sent him back to the AHL after his 5 NHL games.
Mm-hmm.
They agreed with you. They sent him back, and now he's had that offensive explosion. Go ahead, take your victory lap.
Yeah, hey, we talked about vindication earlier, and that's exactly what it is, baby. I mean, look, I've obviously I watch all Abbotsford games. Like, there's no way to sugarcoat it. He wasn't that great. Not only was he not scoring goals, he had 1 goal in the 4 games leading up to his surge this weekend, but he just, at no point did he ever have that one moment that was like, oh yeah, John Lekkerimäki. He was, I don't want to say non-noticeable. He just, you know, he was obviously trying to go from, you know, try to revert back to the AHL, which are 2 completely different games. Like, make no mistake about it. The AHL and the NHL are 2 completely different games. And it is tough, you know, going back and forth, whether you're a netminder, whether you're a defenseman or a goal scorer. Like, it's not easy. And the ultimate reason why I didn't like him going up in the first place, like, yes, we love that he's going up to the NHL. He's scoring goals, so, you know, you want to give him that nice little, you know, gift. But at the same time, he missed the first few games with injury. He was fine. He didn't score in the first couple games. He was finally just starting to get his rhythm, scoring goals. And then he goes up to the NHL, which again is fantastic. But now he's constantly worrying about what Rick Tockett's thinking about him. You know, he's been put in the bumper situation, which he's not been used to this year. And so, you know, he spends 2 weeks kind of just stressing about his game. You know, not that he looked like he was stressing, but I'm sure he was in the back of his mind thinking about what Rick Tockett's thinking. And so now he's just, his rhythm is completely off. And so he goes back to the American League. And that's why for me, I don't know if I like the yo-yoing in between. Like, I'm fully on board with him playing the NHL, but at the same time, you know, as they say, let him cook, you know, like if the Canucks are winning games and they're scoring goals, I don't see the point on rushing him. And that's just my opinion. But
this is a question about another defenseman. We talked about Willander. Another question here. This one from Karn in the chat. How far away is Kirill from playing with the big club?
Oh yeah, he's been impressive. I have to say, I would hold up, like, he's still a bit, like, he's not, for me, I don't think he's up there this year. I think if there was anyone between the 2 20-year-olds, it's Elias Pettersson. He's just, you know, a little bit more of a physical specimen, plays a little bit more of a meat and potatoes game. So I think, you know, if you were to choose between the 2, it's probably going to be Pettersson. At the same rate, It's just been incredible what he's been doing. He's just been slowly but surely moving his way up the ladder, and now has taken over the PP2 on that Abbotsford power play. And he's just so smooth at the junior level. He just has this like calm and composed demeanor about him. And when he's doing that transition out of the zone, it's just so smooth, and he doesn't really panic. And I was a little curious to see if that would translate to the American League, and so far it has. And at this point, he's doing everything. He's playing power play. He's on penalty kill. He's playing top line minutes. He's sliding over to the right side. So you can't really complain about what he's been doing. I still think there is going to be a little bit of if he were ever to make it to the NHL, I think the physical element's going to be a bit of a challenge for him. But at the same rate, he does have a good escapability and a pretty calm transition game that, it might not even matter that he's a bit on the Slayer side, because he is a really good puck mover. So so far so good. He's been awesome.
All right, final one from me, Dave. Actually, this is technically from Stuart Hunter in the YouTube chat. He said, what is Abby going to do with the 4 goalies they seem to have now?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good problem to have, hey? But it sucks to say, because Ty Young has been a fantastic story just from start to finish, right from camp. Like, we just didn't know what was going to happen with him. Is he going back to Prince George? Oh, Prince George has this stud goalie. Like, you just had no idea. And then he comes up to Abbotsford, and he's been good. Like, he had a very shaky start, 3 goals on 3 shots, and we were kind of thinking, okay, what's going to happen? But since then, he's been fantastic. Now, I do think he's obviously on the outside looking in. I would expect him to get dropped down back to the Kalamazoo, where he'll take over number 1 spot and probably dominate, which is great. Patera's injured. I think the important thing between those 4 is I think Silovs needs to get games. So yeah. I think no matter what, he's got to be the guy. He's got to get his game back. He was put in the game over the weekend. He faced 18 shots, so he was barely, he wasn't even tested. So he's got to be the number 1 guy. And I think if you're calling someone up, for me, just get Patera up, once he's healthy, and just let him kind of ride the coattails of being that 3rd string goalie. He's the one goalie that doesn't really have any ties to the club in terms, they went out and got Tolopilo last year and seemed to like him. Yeah. So I just think for me, it's probably going to be Patera going up, and I just think Silovs needs games. So, and
that's what they signed him for. They signed Yuri Patera to be the 3rd string goalie. It just didn't seem like that was going to actually happen. So there you go. They signed Yuri Patera. They signed Kevin Lankinen, so it shuffles it around. But I like that take, Dave. I really do like that take, that Yuri Patera should be the call up. I said that was the last one, but we got another one. This one from Paul Papadoulis in the chat. How's Anthony Romani been?
Yeah, he's still recovering. At this point, there was no actual timeline given, but just based on my, Google knowledge of broken clavicle bones, I don't know if either of you have ever had that, but it was anywhere between 5 to 8 weeks. So we're coming up to that. We're coming up to the 6th or 7th week right now. And, obviously now we got the winter break coming and World Juniors and all that stuff. So I would be shocked to see him before Christmas. I would expect a bit of a early to mid January return. But yeah, it's too bad, because he was looking pretty good right before he got injured, and then broken clavicle bone. So it's a tough draft plus 1 year for him. But we'll be excited to see him. And obviously, not only that, there was an outside chance that he could have played for Team Canada. I mean, they didn't invite Beckett Seneca to start, so I don't think Anthony Romani probably had a shot if he's not getting invited. But at the same rate, it would have been nice for him to at least have that opportunity.
Dave, great stuff as always. Thanks so much for doing this, and we will chat with you soon.
Thanks so much, guys. Love the theme. Thanks, Jacob.
No problem, Dave. Good to chat again.
Dave Hall, Canucks Army's prospect guru. You can go read more. Blackfish is up now. The title of Blackfish today: 3 Canucks prospects announced as World Junior Championship hopefuls. Abbotsford youngsters flourish, and more. Go read it over at CanucksArmy.com every Tuesday, courtesy of Dave Hall.